Alright guys, it's Enrique here, welcome back to the channel, and for today's episode I just want to go straight to the point, since I noticed that every single time that I talk with maybe one of you, one of the subscribers, maybe a member of our Facebook group, which by the way you should join in case that you haven't, since we answer questions, a lot of people are struggling with booking calls with cold email. And I think that there are some mistakes that can be super easily avoided by simply following a certain set of guidelines that are going to help you pretty much cover all the technicalities of cold email in terms of deliverability, open rate, etc. And yeah, I just want to create a super quick video. I think this is going to be super tactical, nothing super fancy. That being said, I want to remind you guys, you can get a document that we'll be using in this video using the link in the description and the link that I'll be leaving in the pinned comment. That being said guys, let's hop to the computer and let's get started right away. The number one is actually not tracking your numbers. What I mean by this is that a lot of people, when they start doing cold outreach, they start to rely way too much on their feelings instead of using data. This has happened a lot of times to me in the past. Maybe we sent 100 emails and we, for whatever reason, don't get that many replies. And then we immediately go and say like, hey, you know what? This script is not working. This cold email thing is not working as a strategy. This specific industry is not working. I should change my offer. I should change my niche. When in reality, maybe the next 100 emails that you were sent, you would have received a lot of replies and booked a lot of calls. And the only way in which I believe that you can solve this issue is, of course, by making informed decisions, aka using some sort of KPI tracker, some sort of campaign management system, so that you can start noticing, like, in the long run, how many calls you are booking using a certain script, how many replies are you getting, so that you can start reverse engineering the certain emails that you're working on, so that you start having more replies, more calls booked, and of course ultimately more clients. So at the end of the day guys, it's really a numbers game, but honestly you gotta stick consistent. Just so you guys know, I would never change or even think about considering any sort of angle that we're using for any sort of campaign without at least having set 500 emails, and that is without even considering the specific follow-ups that we might use for that campaign, etc. And yeah, just wanted to throw that out there so that you can have an idea on what it actually means to have some sort of numbers-based approach. It's way better to have 100 leads that you can follow up with them manually, that you can reach out to them maybe on LinkedIn, on Instagram, sending them a cold email, etc., than having 1,000 leads but losing most of them just because you are not keeping track of them. So make sure that you have a numbers-based approach, number one, and number two, that you use a CRM. The second most common mistake that I see is that people try to play it smart when it comes to your subject lines. And the main reason why this is important, guys, is that you might have the best copywriting angle, you might have the best offer, you might have the best case studies, you might be targeting the perfect niche, but if people are not even opening your emails, you are never going to actually land clients and land meetings. So that's why it's so important to maximize open rates. And one of the biggest things outside of the actual deliverability of the emails is actually the subject lines, because that's what people are going to immediately see whenever you send them an email. So I just decided to put here some of the most valuable and most timeless cold email subject lines so that you guys can take some inspiration. So quick question, question for name and your name. So it could be like question for Jasper, and then the other one might be like Jasper and Enrique, or something like opportunity. You see, something that is just like, okay, what is it? I just want to see what is it. You don't want to say, for example, here's a marketing proposal that is going to help you skyrocket your sales. The moment that people read the word marketing or sales or whatever it might be, people are immediately going to send that to spam. So make sure that you just keep it safe. And of course, once you're a little bit more advanced, or once you know a little bit more about your specific industry, you can start using different subject lines. But for the time being, don't mess around with that. For example, we ran a really successful campaign saying something like referral from Clutch. And what I did is that I scripted a list from Clutch, and I sent a cold email campaign to these people, and they were like, wow man, this is incredible, because it's so specific to them. So maybe just as a little bit of a tangent, but if you are scraping for a certain database, you can do something like, I found you on XXX, and that XXX is the database. If you are scraping leads from maybe Crunchbase, from Clutch, from Tech Behemoth, or from one of these Grojo lists, for example, you can use those in the subject line so that people actually know that you are getting them from somewhere else. And that's also a little bit of personalized, right? So you want to use something like that. The third most common mistake, and I honestly believe that this is the mistake that is costing you the most money, is that people are not following up. And guys, listen, most people are not following up. Here's the deal, guys. Assuming that people follow up, they're not being omnipresent, or they're not doing follow-ups in a good fashion. And a lot of people maybe do a cold email today and they reach out again tomorrow, and if they don't respond tomorrow, they literally die. When in reality, guys, most of the responses that we get, well, honestly, most of the responses that we get are from the first email, but outside of the first email, typically it's until that third or fourth follow-up that people actually start taking you seriously and they actually reply to your emails. So make sure that you have no less than 5 touch points per lead before you throw the towel. And here's the thing, I will make a separate video on the topic of following up specifically because this is so important. But you can just say like, hey, bump in this up, or you can send a meme, for example. You can be like, hey, just a reminder, hope that it doesn't get buried in your inbox, something like that. You get my point? If you can play smart about anything when it comes to cold outreach, it can be in the follow-ups. Like you could literally send people a YouTube video that you published, you could send people a case study, you could send from my iPhone to your follow-up so that people go like, wow, this guy took the time to send from my iPhone, right? I mean, you can play smart with a lot of things when it comes to the follow-up sequences, as long as you, of course, try to give value in some way, shape, or form, right? Again, just try to be omnipresent. And again, just a side note, that's also why it's so crucial to honestly use a CRM, because that's how you can keep track of when to follow up, when was the last time, different social media links where you can do the follow-ups, etc., right? That would be it for the not following up. The fourth most common email mistake that I see is people treat cold emails like cold outreach on social media. And the main reason why I wanted to treat this like that is because I want to coin a principle called that we are going to name ABB. And what that means is like, I don't know if you've ever heard the phrase ABC on sales, like always be closing. When it comes to cold email, you always want to be booking. So always be booking, right? And this is the thing, guys. I mean, if you were to do outreach on Instagram or Facebook or maybe even Twitter, it's okay to send a message and then get a reply. You can start qualifying on the DM. You can ask them about what they have tried in the past, where they're trying to go. You know, this type of things, because it's so easy. People live in their phones and people have social media in their phones. The difference between all of these social media platforms and cold email is that people are not going to manually go and start replying to your emails on the phone. They typically use a computer for that. So it doesn't mean that cold email is worse than other social media platforms. I honestly believe that is even superior, to be honest, but you need to be smart about it. And what I mean by that is that every single time that somebody shows slightest interest, you want to ABB, aka you want to say, hey, yeah, for sure, this is something that we can start talking more about, more in depth on a call. Are you free next Thursday at 3 p.m. EST? Boom. Or, hey, yeah, for sure, I have some ideas in mind, since that's pretty much what we do. Are you free this next Friday at 5 p.m. EST? You get my point, right? You always want to use the different opportunities that leads share with you when it comes to the different signs of interest for an idea or for an openness on booking a call. And what I mean by that, guys, is that a lot of people start explaining their process, they start to explain their case stories, they start to do a whole bunch of things on the actual email. So you are literally not giving people a reason to hop on a call with you, because if you're literally showing everything, the people might be like, hey, yeah, this is not interest for me. But maybe if you were to hop on a call with them, they would see the value and actually buy. So you want to always maximize the call instead of replying. So that's why ABB, always be booking. Next most common mistake is writing long paragraphs. I think this is honestly self-explanatory, but most times people do their cold emails and they do like hi, first name, a super long personalization, then they do an entire introduction about their business. They start to say about these amazing case stories and what they have tried and why they're the best company ever. This is the offer, 5 bullet points on what you're going to do, and then a call to action. And it's like, man, like I don't really care about what you're saying. Please just go to the point, right? The base principle that I like to keep in mind whenever I launch campaigns is that we want to keep it short and sweet, and we might literally just ask a question. You might be like, hi, first name, and a super quick question like, for example, have you considered doing a TED Talk in the past? Let me know. Cheers, Enrique. Something like that, right? So a whole bunch of people are going to say yes, or they might say, not really, have not thought about that. But here's the thing, now we have a reply. And assuming that we have a reply, we can now pitch them our offer way easier because they showed interest already. And of course, that's assuming that TED Talks or public speaking or something is something that has to do with your offer. If you're doing another type of offer, again, you just want to keep the same principle of how you can get a reply. Because once you get a reply, you add them to the CRM. Now that they are in the CRM, you can start manually following up with them on LinkedIn, on Instagram, or whatever it might be, and everything is way easier. Trust me on that one. Long paragraphs are no-go, okay? At least not in the first email. If somebody asks for something specific and they're interested in that, once they reply to you on the actual manual personalized fashion, right? So writing long paragraphs are definitely a no-go. Next most common mistake that I see is being too formal. So when you see a cold email that starts by saying something like, Dear Enrique, I found it super pleasurable to watch your YouTube videos. Like those are the type of emails that I get all the time. I really appreciate it. Number one, thanks for the shout outs on the emails for the YouTube channel. But honestly, guys, when you're being too formal, you're immediately like disgusted by that. It's like, hey, I don't want to do business with somebody that is like that. At least that's the feeling that I have. And I know for a lot of people that's also the case. Like, the next most common mistake that I see is people talking way too much about them. The way you can see this is when you see an email that says something like, hey, I would love to do this with you, or hey, I would love to hop on a call, or I would love to do a strategy session, or I would love to do a brainstorm planning session. Imagine that if that's being sent to you, most times you're going to be just like, hey, great that you love it, but I don't, like, stop, right? So it's better that you always talk about them, like what's in it for them. Use more the word you than the word I. And you can say things like, hey, would you be open for this? Or would it be helpful if we chat about a specific topic? Would you be against the idea of XXX? You see, like, you want to talk about them, and most importantly, make it intrinsically valuable for them to reply to you. So you might give them assets, you might send videos, you see, like, you want to always try to push the benefit of everything on their side of the field, so that there's less friction in the entire booking process, okay? The next most common mistake that I see is people using attachments, links, signatures, etc. I know this might be controversial because a lot of people want to use that super professional looking signature with their logos and everything, but honestly that lowers your deliverability when sending your cold emails. And number two, it makes it way too obvious that you're just trying to pitch something, because the whole purpose of cold emails, if you actually want to get, and this is a secret by the way guys, is you don't want it to look like a cold email. You just want it to look like a normal conversation that is going to solve the life of your prospect. Of course, if you have a super cool offer and everything, that should be the point anyways, but the point that I'm trying to make is that you don't want to be sending images, attachments, anything like that lowers your deliverability, at least not on the first email, because of course, like, once people reply to you, Google will know that there's some sort of connection between you, so you can send your links, etc. But if they have not replied to you, at least don't send any image. Number one. And number two, avoid links, because that will make it anti-spam most probably, right? The last thing that I wanted to mention before we finish this video is that you shouldn't be sending Calendly links. I wanted to keep this for last because I wanted to make a point here. Imagine that you are sending a cold email to somebody and they might even say for whatever reason, yeah man, let's hop on a call, and you send them a Calendly link. Yeah, sometimes they might book, but you would book, I would say 3 or even 4 times as many calls if you literally just take the leap and say like, hey, are you free tomorrow, or are you free next Wednesday at this time? And what happens is that most times they're going to literally just be like, yes, like that's it. And then you send them an invite and boom, you booked a call. When in reality, if you start sending Calendly links, you have to wait for them, you have to still follow up, and it's super awkward because you already sent a Calendly link. So you are always on the weaker side, if that makes sense. It's way better when you actually book calls manually. That has, I promise guys, way more conversion rate. The only way in which I use Calendly to book calls is for inbound leads. Or whenever I launch a campaign that people don't even care about replying to me, they might just be like, hey, this is honestly such a good deal that I want to book a call immediately. So only in those cases, I think that it's important to have Calendly links. And in that case, it's not even from the actual email, it's from the website. Once they go and visit my website, they go to the Calendly link and they book a call. So that's the only thing that I would say. And I think that could be an extra bonus point. And it is that, of course, if you're using a professional domain or a domain that you bought for your cold emails, you need to warm up your email so that you don't land on spam. You also might want to redirect your burner domain to your main domain if you are using a burner domain in the first place. And yeah, just those are the type of technical stuff that we want to say for another video. But these 10 most common mistakes that I just went over are the not so logical and a little bit more common things that people always do, but they don't know that they are doing wrong. So yeah guys, I hope that you found this video valuable. And if you like this type of content, make sure to give us a like, subscribe to the channel. I would love it if you can actually just leave a comment saying how this has helped you or whatever it is that maybe you are struggling with, so that I can create more videos about it. Also, if you haven't, make sure to join our private Facebook group so that we can help you in your client acquisition, lead generation, and fulfillment process, okay? Hope that you found this video valuable. See you guys in the next one. Bye-bye.